Wang looked at the terms of the agreement, confirming that the 50 million severance fee was correct. Sign it. Just sign it. My Maldives sunshine, sandy beaches, and bikini-clad beauties are all waiting for me. Wang's hand suddenly stopped. No, sis. Don't mess up at the critical moment. President Su. Lawyer Wang asked, "Is there a problem?" Wang ignored him, staring straight at me instead. She couldn't have found out that I secretly drank her prized red wine last week. Could she? No. That can't be it. I clearly refill that 1982 Lafite with a cheap substitute of similar color. I stared at the divorce agreement in front of me, my fingers lightly tapping on the mahogany table. Mr. Chin, is the coffee to your liking? The paralegal asked in a low voice. Huh? Oh, good. Thanks. I snapped back to reality and took a sip of the Blue Mountain coffee that cost half a day's wages. It was bitter as hell, nowhere near as good as the instant coffee from the convenience store for $10. The assistant politely withdrew, and I continued staring blankly at the document. More precisely, I was staring at the number on it. 50,000,000. 50 million. A full 50 million. I barely suppressed the urge to burst out laughing, only able to celebrate wildly in my mind. 2 years. 2 whole years of a contractual marriage were finally coming to an end. From today onward, Chin was about to reach the pinnacle of life, a seaside villa in the Maldives, a limited edition Ferrari, and no more having to accompany that workaholic to boring business cocktail parties. Mr. Su has arrived. Hearing my assistant's announcement, I immediately adjusted my facial expression, putting on that melancholic yet restrained look. This was the soon-to-be divorced gentleman expression I had practiced for 2 months in front of the bathroom mirror, guaranteed to make anyone who saw it think I was a good man being abandoned. The door opened, and Wang walked in wearing those heels that could kill someone. Today, she was dressed in a navy blue suit, making her skin look radiantly pale. As always, she took off her sunglasses and glanced at me, her gaze no different from how she'd look at an office photocopier. Lawyer Wang, are the documents ready? Her voice was as cold as ever, the same temperature as frozen meat in a refrigerator. Everything is ready. President Su. Attorney Wang respectfully handed over the documents and a fountain pen. As soon as you and Mr. Chin sign, the agreement will take effect. I watched her take the pen, and my heart began to race. Almost there. Almost there. My life of freedom was right in front of me. Wang quickly scanned the terms of the agreement. After confirming that the 50 million severance fee was correct, the tip of the pen hovered over the signature line. I held my breath. Sign it. Just sign it. My Maldives sunshine, sandy beaches, and bikini-clad beauties were all waiting for me. Just as the tip of the pen was about to touch the paper, Wang's hand suddenly stopped. My heart nearly leaped out of my throat. No, no, no. Don't freeze up at the critical moment. President Su. Lawyer Wang asked in confusion, "Is there a problem?" Wang ignored him, staring straight at me instead. That look sent a chill down my spine. Could it be that she found out I secretly drank her collection of red wine last week? No. That can't be right. I clearly filled that 1982 Lafite with a cheap substitute. I've changed my mind. Wang snapped her pen shut and stood up. I'm not getting a divorce. My brain instantly froze. What? I blurted out, quickly trying to recover. I mean, why all of a sudden? Damn it. My voice is trembling. My 50 million. My seaside villa. My sports car. What's wrong with this woman? Didn't we agree to part ways peacefully when the 2-year contract expired? The company has a new project, and getting a divorce now would hurt the image. She picked up her Hermes bag, which could cost me a year's salary, and headed for the door. Before leaving, she turned back to deliver one last blow. Oh, and don't forget to show up on time for tonight's charity gala. My dear husband. She emphasized the last 2 words so heavily that I nearly spat out my coffee. Watching her walk away with such ease, I collapsed onto the sofa, feeling like my life was in total darkness. My freedom. Damn charity gala. I had even planned out what suit to wear, of course. It was going to be the battle gear for hitting the club and partying till dawn right after signing. Lawyer Wang coughed awkwardly. Mr. Chin, what about this agreement? Tear it up. I waved my hand in utter despair, then suddenly thought of something. Wait, can I keep that agreement as a souvenir? At least let me take it home and cry over it for a while. Walking out of the law firm, I stood by the roadside and called my best friend Ming. Hey, Lao Chen, big trouble. Suwon suddenly changed her mind and won't divorce. What? Then you're 5 million. Down the drain. I gritted my teeth. That woman definitely did it on purpose. She might have found out I swapped her collection of red wine, and now she's getting back at me. Wait, Ming suddenly lowered his voice. Do you think she might have fallen for you? I almost choked on my own saliva. Are you crazy? Suwon, that workaholic ice queen. Do you know what she said when I gave her a necklace for her birthday last time? This kind of luxury item affects work efficiency. Next time, just cash it out and donate it to charity. Then why doesn't she get a divorce? Who knows? I scratched my head in frustration. She says it's about the company's image. Damn company image. We've been married for 2 years, and I can count the number of times we've shared a bed on one hand. Would she really care about that? Actually, we've never shared a bed even once. But I have to put up a front in front of my friends. Right? After hanging up the phone, I stood by the roadside in a daze for a while. Suddenly, I thought of tonight's charity gala, and I felt terrible. I'd have to dress up all proper again, putting on a fake smile while those wealthy people gave me that kept man smirk. Wait, I narrowed my eyes. Since Suwon doesn't want a divorce, I'll find a way to make her bring it up herself. Clingy, annoying, over the top, whatever makes me the most insufferable. With Suwon's workaholic personality, she definitely won't be able to stand it for more than a month. Thinking of this, I reignited my hope. 50 million. Wait for me. I will definitely get my hands on you. But first, I need to go and swap back that swap bottle of Lafite. If Suwon finds out, I'm afraid I won't even get a 50-cent breakup fee. I stood at the entrance of the wedding room, suitcase in hand, and took a deep breath. It had been 2 years since I signed that damn marriage contract with Suwon, and I could count on one hand the number of times I had stepped into this villa. When I inserted the key into the lock, my hand trembled a little. Not from nervousness, from anger. My 50 million. Gone just like that. Calm down. Cheating you. I told myself, as long as I stick to the plan, within a month, Suwon will definitely be the one to file for divorce. Pushing the door open, a faint scent of jasmine wafted toward me. The living room was spotless, exactly as it had been the last time I was here, which meant Suwon probably hadn't been staying here much either. I dragged my suitcase up to the second floor, hesitated for 3 seconds in front of the master bedroom door, then decisively turned and headed to the guest room. Although the contract stated that we were to play the role of a loving couple, it was better to keep our distance in private. Besides, my goal now was to make Suwon hate me, not to actually live with her. No sooner had I put down my luggage than my phone rang. It was a text from Suwon. Charity gala at the Hyatt Hotel tonight at 7. Don't be late. I rolled my eyes at the screen. See, that was Suwon's style. Even her punctuation carried a commanding tone. Okay, darling. I'll be there on time, I deliberately replied in a sickly sweet tone, even adding a disgusting heart emoji. I regretted it as soon as I sent it. It was too deliberate. Suwon is so smart. She definitely gets suspicious. But then I thought, maybe suspicion is good. It'll make her think I'm acting out of character. I opened my suitcase and started packing my clothes. On top were my carefully prepared, annoying husband gear. 3 flashy shirts. Suwon hates flashy things. A bottle of cologne strong enough to knock someone out. She said she dislikes strong scents. And a few gossip magazines. She thinks reading them is a waste of life. Perfect. I grinned, grabbed the cologne, and sprayed it wildly on myself a few times. nearly choking to death. Halfway through tidying up, my stomach started growling. I glanced at the time, 4 in the afternoon. Still 3 hours until the dinner party. Plenty of time to grab a bite and doll myself up enough to be insufferable. Humming a tune, I headed downstairs to find something to eat in the kitchen. The moment I pushed the door open, I froze in place. Suwon was sitting at the dining table, a pile of documents spread out in front of her, her fingers flying across the laptop keyboard. She looked up at me, and her brow immediately furrowed. "What perfume did you spray?" "The new cologne I bought. Do you like it?" I deliberately spun around to let the scent spread more fully. Suwon's nose wrinkled, but she quickly returned to a blank expression. "It's okay." "Wait, this reaction isn't right. Shouldn't she be looking disgusted and telling me to go wash it off?" "There's food in the fridge. Heat it up yourself," Suwon said without looking up. I felt as if I had been granted a pardon and quickly fled the scene. Opening the fridge, I saw neatly arranged containers with labels on them. Monday, Tuesday, truly worthy of Suwon. Even her food had to be planned by the day. I grabbed one at random and put it in the microwave. While waiting, I secretly observed Suwon. Sunlight streamed in through the floor-to-ceiling windows, gilding her with a golden edge, and her eyelashes cast tiny shadows on her face. I had to admit, this woman was really beautiful, but her personality was just too awful. The microwave's ding interrupted my thoughts. Carrying the lunchbox, I sat at the other end of the dining table, trying to stay as far away from Suwon as possible. "Wear the dark blue suit tonight," Suwon suddenly said. I was stuffing food into my mouth and almost choked at her words. "I have my own sense of style. Those floral shirts of yours will embarrass me in front of the clients." I pursed my lips and retorted inwardly, "Who cares what your clients think? I'll wear the flashiest one just to spite you." Suwon's fingers paused on the keyboard for a moment, but quickly resumed typing. "As you wish." Strange. She actually gave in? That doesn't seem like Suwon's style. After dinner, I rushed back to the guest room as if escaping, locked the door, and leaned against it, gasping for air. Too weird. Suwon was way too weird today. I glanced at the time, 5:30. Time to prepare for the evening banquet. Even though I had just made harsh remarks in my mind, for the sake of survival, it was better to go along with her for now. I took out the dark blue suit and paired it with a flashy red tie as a small act of rebellion. At 6:30, when I came downstairs, Suwon was already waiting in the living room. She was wearing a black backless dress, her hair tied up, revealing her slender neck. I had to admit, this woman truly had the kind of looks that were hard to look away from. "Change the tie," she said without turning her head. I looked down at my red tie. "Why?" "I think it matches perfectly, like a restaurant manager." Suwon turned around, holding a dark blue tie in her hand. "Use this." I gritted my teeth and cursed her out in my mind. Control freak. Obsessive compulsive. Ice queen. Who asked for your opinion anyway? Suwon suddenly blinked, the corner of her mouth twitching almost imperceptibly. But she quickly returned to her expressionless face. "Hurry up. We're going to be late." I changed my tie like a puppet on strings and followed her out. In the car, I decided to test something. Staring out the window, I repeated frantically in my mind, "Suwon is a tomboy. Suwon is a tomboy. Suwon is a tomboy." Suwon stared intently at the documents on her tablet, showing no reaction. I guess I was overthinking it. Mind reading or anything like that is just too absurd. The charity gala was as boring as ever. I stood beside Suwon like a vase, flashing fake smiles at every wealthy man who came over to chat. These people were polite to me on the surface, but their eyes clearly said, "A kept man living off a woman." "Where does Mr. Chin work?" asked a middle-aged man with a face full of rough features. Smiling, My husband is a freelancer." Suwon answered first, naturally linking her arm with mine. I nearly choked on my own saliva. Suwon voluntarily touched me. Was the sun rising from the west? "Freelancing. So that means you're unemployed?" The disdain in the middle-aged man's eyes grew even more apparent. I silently cursed his ancestors for 18 generations in my mind. Suwon suddenly gently squeezed my arm and said to the man, "Mr. Zhang probably doesn't know, but my husband is a business analysis expert. Many of my investment decisions were made with his help." I looked at her in surprise. Business analysis expert? I did study that in college. But how did Suwon know? And besides, our contract didn't say anything about her bragging on my behalf. After the banquet ended, I was completely exhausted. This kind of occasion is more tiring than manual labor, at least with manual labor. You don't have to fake a smile. When I got home, Suwon went straight upstairs to the master bedroom. I collapsed on the sofa, pulled out my phone, and sent a message to Qinming. The plan has changed. Suwon was way too unusual today. Qinming replied instantly. What was unusual about her? She actually called me a business analysis expert, and she even took my arm voluntarily. Holy shit, she couldn't actually like you. Could she? Get lost. I replied with an angry emoji. Starting tomorrow, we execute Plan A. Plan A was the clingy husband strategy that Qinming and I had carefully designed, sending countless messages and making endless calls every day until Suwon got so annoyed she'd want to kick me out the door. At 7 o'clock the next morning, as soon as the alarm went off, I jumped up and sent Suwon the first message. Good morning. Darling, the weather is beautiful today. Thinking of you, I got goosebumps myself after sending that. Suwon usually wakes up at 7:30 sharp. Without fail. I was waiting for her to reply with a get lost or just block me outright. My phone buzzed quickly, and I was surprised to see Suwon's reply. Good morning. The weather is indeed nice today. Remember to have breakfast. I stared at the screen for a full minute. This isn't right. Suwon would never respond to such a boring message. And she definitely wouldn't care whether I had breakfast or not. Not giving up, I sent another message. What time do you get off work today? I'll pick you up at the office, and we can have dinner together this time. It took 5 minutes for a reply. 7 o'clock. I want Japanese food. I almost dropped my phone. What's going on? Suwon actually agreed to go on a date with me. According to Qinming's theory, she should have found me annoying. All day long, I acted like a lunatic, sending Suwon a message every half hour. From have you had lunch? To is the office air conditioning too cold? I covered every little detail. And what's even scarier is that Suwon replied to every single one. She even proactively sent me a photo of her lunch. At 6:30 in the evening, I stood at the foot of the Subaru building, feeling like a complete fool. Plan A had utterly failed, and now I had to grit my teeth and go have Japanese food with Suwon. Mr. Chin? A voice came from behind me. I turned around and saw a man in a sharp suit standing there, a fake smile plastered on his face. Lindsay. I nodded. This guy was Suwon's vice president, always making snide remarks at me. Didn't expect to see you here. Lin Zhuan looked me up and down. President Su has an important meeting today. I'm afraid she won't have time to see you. I was about to retort when Suwon's voice came from the entrance of the building. Qin Yu. I turned to look. She was wearing that iconic business suit, her high heels clicking crisply on the marble floor. Lin Yuan's expression immediately turned respectful. President Su, didn't you say you'd be working late tonight reviewing the merger case? He asked. Changed my mind. Suwon didn't even glance at him. Walked straight over to me and unexpectedly linked her arm through mine. My husband booked a Japanese restaurant. Lin Zuan's expression looked like he had swallowed a fly. I held back my laughter and deliberately kissed Suwon on the cheek. Let's go, dear. Once we were out of the building, Suwon immediately let go of my arm and turned back into that icy beauty. Nice acting. Right back at you, I said with a shrug. Why did you help me shut down Lin Zuan? Suwon raised an eyebrow. Don't you hate him? Yeah. But I suddenly stopped. Wait, how do you know I hate him? Every time you see him, your face looks like you've stepped in dog shit. Suwon said calmly. The explanation made perfect sense, but something still fell off. At the Japanese restaurant, Su-Wan actually took the initiative to pour me a cup of sake. I heard you studied business analysis in college? Yeah, but I haven't really used it much since graduating. I replied cautiously. How did you know? It was written on the marriage registration form. Su-Wan took a sip of sake. Why didn't you pursue that field? I shrugged. Never came across a good opportunity. The truth was, I wasted a year after graduation obsessing over video games, and later never managed to find a job in that field again. Interested in joining Sue's? Su-Wan suddenly asked. I spat out my drink. What? The company has a project recently that happens to need business analysis. Su-Wan's expression was terrifyingly serious. Salary will be at market rate. I squinted my eyes. Why the sudden kindness? Su-Wan set down her wine glass and looked me straight in the eye. Because I think you're wasting your talent. This answer caught me off guard. I had expected her to give some official reason like because the contract hasn't expired yet or for the sake of the company's image. I'll think about it. I replied vaguely. But inside I was wondering, what exactly is this woman up to? At exactly 7 in the morning. I lurked outside the master bedroom door like a secret agent, my ear pressed against the door panel. No sound. Su-Wan should still be asleep. I cleared my throat and called out in the sweetest, most syrupy voice. Honey, time to get up. The sun is shining on your butt. A thump came from inside the room, like a pillow hitting the door. Plan successful. I grinned smugly and continued in a tone that could curdle teeth. I made you breakfast heart-shaped fried eggs and toast. The door was yanked open, and Su-Wan stood at the entrance, her hair slightly tousled and eyes still heavy with sleep. Yet she was still breathtakingly beautiful. She wore a silk nightgown, the collar slightly open, revealing a glimpse of her delicate collarbone. I quickly averted my gaze, silently reciting in my mind, 50 million, 50 million, 50 million. Since when did you learn to cook? Su-Wan's voice carried the hoarseness of just waking up. I learned it especially for you, I blinked, adding in my mind. Actually, it's just takeout plating. Su-Wan squinted, and that look sent a chill down my spine. Could she have figured it out? Thank you, she said suddenly, then walked straight toward the dining room. I stood there frozen. Wait, that's it. No sarcastic remarks. No telling me to get lost. At the dining table, Su-Wan took small bites of my heartfelt breakfast. Her expression as calm as if she were eating at a Michelin 3-star restaurant. I sat across from her, like a primary school student waiting for the teacher to grade his homework. The fried egg is too salty, and the toast is burnt. She put down her fork, but I appreciate the gesture. My jaw nearly hit the table. This didn't fit Su-Wan's character at all. According to Qin Ming's script, she should have pushed the plate away in disgust by now, saying something like, if it's this bad, don't even bother bringing it to the table. Do you have any plans today? Su-Wan wiped the corner of her mouth, her movements as graceful as if she were filming a commercial. Oh, nothing special. I was at a loss for words, having completely forgotten all the lines I had prepared. Then come with me to the company. Su-Wan stood up. There are some documents that need your signature. I widened my eyes. What documents? A confirmation of joint marital property, she said casually. Since we're not getting divorced anymore, there are some procedures that need to be completed. My heart skipped a beat. Joint property? Didn't that mean my 50 million was going down the drain? I suddenly remembered I have a dentist appointment today. I jumped up. A really important dentist appointment. Su-Wan looked at me with a faint, knowing smile. Is that so? Then some other time. She walked toward the stairs, then suddenly turned back. Oh, by the way, I'll send you a message at noon. Make sure to reply. I nodded like an idiot and only collapsed into the chair after she went upstairs. This isn't right. Something is seriously off. Not only does Su-Wan not hate my clingy behavior, but she's actually clinging back even more. I pulled out my phone and called Qin Ming. Old Qin, Plan A has completely failed. Su-Wan actually likes me sticking to her. That's impossible. Chen Ming shrieked on the other end of the line. A workaholic like Su-won hates being disturbed the most. But she just asked me to go to the company with her. And she said she would text me at noon. There was a few seconds of silence on the other end of the phone. Jean, are you sure you two are just in a contract marriage? Nonsense. We haven't even held hands. I lowered my voice, except for necessary public appearances. Then why is she suddenly acting like this? Shan Ming muttered. Unless what? Unless she actually falls for you. I nearly crushed my phone. Are you out of your mind? Su-won falling for me? Do you know what she said last time I gave her flowers for her birthday? These pointless plants only attract bugs and cause hay fever. Then how do you explain her attitude toward you now? I was speechless. Yeah, how can I explain? Could it be? A terrifying possibility suddenly struck me. Olchin, do you think? She can hear what I'm thinking. A burst of laughter came from the other end of the phone. Haha, are you crazy? Mind reading. You think this is a sci-fi movie? I also thought the idea was too absurd, but Su-won's recent behavior had been just too unusual. At exactly 12 noon, my phone rang on time. A message from Su-won. Have you had lunch? I stared at the screen, my fingers trembling. Reply or not? If I replied, wouldn't that be indulging her clingy behavior? If I didn't, I could already picture Su-won coldly deducting my breakup fee. What about you? I ended up replying, even adding a disgustingly sweet heart emoji. Su-won replied instantly, eating now. There's a company gathering tonight. You're coming. It wasn't a question. It was an order. Classic Su-won style. I don't know why there are always gatherings. But to prevent Su-won from bringing up the joint property confirmation again, I didn't dare to argue. What gathering? I asked. Quarterly celebration banquet. 7 o'clock. Don't be late. I curled my lips and cursed under my breath. Control freak. The phone rang again immediately. Remember to dress formally. I almost threw the phone away. Does this woman have telepathy or something? At 7 in the evening. I walked into the Su Group building wearing that dark blue suit as Su-won had specified. In the elevator. I adjusted my tie in front of the mirror, mentally mapping out tonight's plan B. Since being clingy didn't work, I'd switch tactics, play the part of a frivolous playboy, and embarrass Su-won in front of everyone else. The celebration banquet was held in the top-floor ballroom, and by the time I walked in, the place was already buzzing with chatter. Su-won stood at the center, surrounded by a group of executives, like a queen receiving the homage of her subjects. Tonight, she wore a wine-red gown that made her skin look as fair as snow, her hair loosely tied up, revealing her slender neck. I took a deep breath, puffed out my chest, and walked over. Honey, my voice was loud enough for half the banquet hall to hear. Everyone turned their heads, including Su-won. Seizing the moment, I wrapped my arm around her waist and gave her a loud kiss on the cheek. Sorry I'm late. Traffic was bad. Su-won's body stiffened noticeably, but quickly relaxed. It's okay. She actually didn't push me away. That's not scientifically possible. I decided to step it up. Picking up a glass of champagne, I deliberately said loudly, Everyone, I propose a toast to my beautiful wife. Without her, the Su Group wouldn't have achieved what it has today. The executives exchanged glances, but still raised their glasses. Su-won's expression was subtle, as if she was holding back a laugh. Mr. Chin is truly a model husband, a female executive said with a smile. Of course. I tightened my arm around Su-won. I make breakfast for Wan every day. Send her messages at noon to remind her to eat, and give her a massage in the evening. Su-won suddenly started coughing, her face turning bright red. Finally can't take it anymore. President Su is really lucky. Another female colleague said enviously. What's going on? Shouldn't these people think I'm a disgusting, clingy pest? Just then, a young girl in a low-cut dress staggered over. Mr. Chin, can I buy you a drink? My eyes lit up. Here's my chance. Flirt with a female colleague right in front of Su-won. Let's see if she can still hold back. Of course. Beautiful, I took the glass, deliberately leaning in close. What's your name? I'm Xiaomei from the marketing department. The girl said with a flushed face. I've always admired Mr. Qin. I glanced smugly at Su Wan, only to find her talking to the finance director. Not even looking this way. Damn it. Mr. Qin is so handsome. Xiaomei leaned in closer, the smell of alcohol on her breath hitting my face. So much better than those men in the company. Only then did I notice she was drunk. She was practically clinging to me, her hands wandering uninvitedly to my chest. I panicked instantly. Acting is one thing, but I never actually intended to cheat. Oh, Miss Xiaomei, you've had too much to drink. I tried to push her away, but she clung to me like an octopus. Mr. Qin, won't you take me home? She whispered in my ear. My whole body went stiff, and I wailed inwardly. It's over. It's over. If she sees me like this, I'm dead. Suwon will definitely kill me. I won't get a single cent of the 50 million. Need some help? A cold voice sounded behind me. I turned around, and Suwon was standing there. I don't know since when, with a dangerous smile on her face. Su. President Su. Xiaomei immediately let go of me and stood up straight. I was just. You've had too much to drink. Suwon said calmly. The company reimburses taxi fares. Go home and rest now. Xiaomei scurried away like a mouse that had seen a cat. I stood frozen in place, cold sweat trickling down my back. Wanwan, let me explain. No need to explain. Suwon handed me a glass of juice. Drink less. I took the cup foolishly, completely baffled. This reaction was way too normal, wasn't it? According to the script, she should have been furious and humiliated me in public. President Su. A greasy middle-aged man walked over. I heard the recent acquisition went smoothly. Suwon nodded, thanks to the team's efforts. So this is your husband? The man looked me up and down. Truly a fine-looking man. I rolled my eyes inwardly. Asterisk suck up. Asterisk Suwon suddenly linked her arm through mine. Yes, my husband has given me a lot of professional advice. Professional advice? When did I ever give her professional advice? This woman doesn't even blink when she lies. After the banquet ended, Suwon surprisingly offered to go home together. In the car, she rested with her eyes closed, while I secretly observed her profile. Moonlight streamed through the car window, casting a glow on her face and outlining its perfect contours. I suddenly noticed her eyelashes were long, like two small fans. Had your fill of looking? Suwon suddenly spoke, her eyes still closed. I quickly averted my gaze. Who was looking at you? I was looking out the window. Suwon let out a soft laugh and said nothing more. When she got home, she walked straight to the bedroom and stopped at the door. Oh, by the way, tomorrow is the weekend. Let's go play golf. What? I don't know how to play golf. I'll teach you. She closed the door, leaving me standing alone in the hallway. I returned to the guest room and messaged Chin Ming. Plan B failed too. Suwon doesn't care at all about me flirting with my female colleague. Chin Ming replied, Bro, I'm starting to think she really does like you. Bullshit. I typed angrily. She's just what? I couldn't come up with a reason either. Suwon's recent behavior has been too unusual, completely out of character for her Ice Queen persona. Unless an absurd thought surfaced in my mind. Unless she can hear my inner thoughts and knows I'm just putting on an act. I shook my head, dismissing this ridiculous notion. Mind reading. Too far-fetched. Tomorrow's golf game. I must find a way to make her bring up divorce first. The next day, I put on the clothes she specified and went with her to the golf course. Bang. The golf ball shot out like a cannonball, tracing a graceful arc through the air before precisely hitting the wealthy man on the adjacent fairway. Screams echoed across the entire golf course. I stood frozen in place, my hand gripping the club trembling slightly. Damn it, I've really messed up this time. Jean, you. Suwon gritted her teeth as she walked over. her high heels sinking into the grass. Did you do that on purpose? I blinked innocently. I told you I don't know how to play golf. That was the chairman of the Ma group. Suwon lowered her voice. Do you know we're in the middle of negotiating a partnership with them? I rolled my eyes internally. None of my business. But on the surface, I pretended to look guilty. Sorry. Honey, how about I go apologize? Suwon took a deep breath and suddenly smiled. Sure. Go ahead. This reaction is off. Shouldn't she be furious and cancel the date outright? I braced myself and walked toward the chairman, who was holding his head. I'm so sorry, sir. You're President Sue's husband? The old man glared at me. Do you realize that one swing of this club could send me to the ICU? How about I buy you a drink? I said with an apologetic smile. Drink? The old man sneered. I've been sober for 20 years. Great. My flattery backfired. I glanced back at Suwon, who was leisurely sitting under the parasol sipping iced tea, looking like she was enjoying the show. In the end, I had to sign a sky-high medical check bill to settle matter. On the way back to the club, I hung my head like a drenched dog. Happy now. Suwon handed me a glass of lemonade. Very happy, I muttered. Now do you see how bad it is to bring me out? Next time, you should just... No, I think it's fun. Suwon interrupted me. We'll come again next weekend. I spat out my water. What? What? Don't want to exercise with me? Suwon raised an eyebrow. I was speechless. Is this woman on something? By all logic, she should never want to see me again. Back home, I collapsed on the sofa, pondering life. The golf plan failed. The clingy plan failed. The flirty plan failed too. Suwon's tolerance was simply beyond imagination. It looks like I need to play hardball. I muttered to myself, pulling out my phone to search for how to be a terrible husband. The next morning, I deliberately slept in until the sun was high in the sky. When I came downstairs, Suwon had already left for work, leaving a note on the dining table. Breakfast is in the microwave. I curled my lip and tossed the breakfast straight into the trash. Then I began executing my terrible husband plan. Step 1. Scatter dirty socks everywhere. Step 2. Play games in the living room until 3 a.m. with the volume turned up to the max. Step 3. Order a bunch of junk food delivery and pile the packaging boxes on the coffee table. Step 4. Use Suwon's premium teacup as an ashtray, even though I don't smoke. 3 days later, the apartment had turned into a pigsty. I looked around smugly. There's no way Suwon can put up with this now. At 7 in the evening, the sound of the door lock turning echoed. I immediately struck the most obnoxious pose, slouching on the sofa and pressing the game controller with loud clicks. Suwon walked in, her high heels crunching on the pizza box as she stepped on it. She looked around, her expression surprisingly calm. Having fun? She asked. Absolutely. I deliberately said loudly. Way more fun than playing golf with you. Suwon nodded, set down her briefcase, and began taking off her coat. Wait, why wasn't she angry? Don't you think the house is too messy? I asked tentatively. It is a bit, Suwon said, bending down to pick up my dirty socks. But the housekeeper is coming to clean tomorrow. My jaw nearly hit the floor. That's it. No yelling. No slamming the door. I'm tired. I want to take a shower first, Suwon said as she went upstairs, leaving me sitting alone in a pile of trash, questioning my life. Plan C. Failed. The next day was Saturday, and I slept until noon. When I went downstairs, I found the apartment had been restored to a spotless state. My game console was neatly placed in the TV cabinet, and all the takeout boxes were gone. Suwon was sitting at the dining table working, with a cup of coffee in front of her. She looked not quite right. Pale complexion, red eyes, and coughing occasionally. You're sick? I blurted out. Suwon shook her head. I'm fine. I stepped closer and saw fine beads of sweat on her forehead and cracked lips. She was clearly running a fever. Have you taken your temperature? I frowned. I don't have time. Suwon didn't even look up. This merger case needs to be done by Monday. I snatched her laptop away. If you're sick, rest. Suwon finally looked up, her gaze sharp. Give it back. No. I hid the laptop behind my back. Go upstairs and lie down. I'll go buy you some medicine. No need. Suwon stood up, trying to grab the computer, but suddenly swayed and nearly fell. I quickly steadied her, and as my hand touched her skin, it was frighteningly hot. Oh my God. You're burning up like this and still working? Let go of me. Suwon struggled, but her strength was clearly much weaker. Without another word, I scooped her up horizontally. Suwon was astonishingly light, like a frail little kitten in my arms. You put me down. She protested weakly. Shut up, I said, carrying her upstairs. Move again, and I'll drop you. Suwon finally stopped struggling, probably too weak to continue. I laid her on the bed, covered her with a blanket, and then rummaged through drawers and cabinets for a thermometer. The first aid kit is, Suwon said weakly. I know where it is. I interrupted her rudely. Actually, I had no idea, and I finally found it in the bathroom cabinet. The thermometer showed 39.2 degrees. I cursed under my breath, pulled out some fever medicine, and said, Take it. Suwon shook her head. Taking it will make me drowsy. I still have work. Work my ass. I raised my voice in anger. Do you want to burn yourself into a fool? Suwon was stunned by my shout and obediently took the pills and swallowed them. I poured a glass of warm water for her, my movements unexpectedly gentle. Get some sleep, I ordered. I'll go buy some food. Suwon had already closed her eyes, her long lashes casting shadows on her pale face. I stood by the bed for a moment, watching her, when a strange feeling suddenly surged within me. As soon as I got downstairs, I immediately called Chin Ming. Old Chin. Emergency. Suwon has a high fever. So, let her call a doctor herself. But she looks really bad. I bit my nails. What should I do? There was a few seconds of silence on the other end of the line. You're not worried about her, are you? Bullshit. I denied immediately. I'm just afraid that if she dies, I won't get the 50 million. Chin Ming sneered. Then why did you call to ask me? I was at a loss for words. Yeah, why did I ask Chin Ming? Wouldn't it be better to just let Suwon fend for herself? I'm hanging up. I hung up in embarrassment and grabbed my keys to head out. An hour later, I came back with bags full of stuff, fever medicine, porridge, fruit, and even a bouquet of flowers. The shopkeeper said a patient in good spirits recovers faster. So I just grabbed one on a whim. Yes, no other thoughts. Just afraid that if she dies, we won't get the 50 million. When I went upstairs, Suwon was still asleep, but she was restless, murmuring softly in her sleep. I gently put down my things and sat by the bed to observe her. Without her strong woman mask, Suwon looked especially fragile. Her brows furrowed tightly, her cheeks flushed with an unnatural redness from the high fever. I inexplicably reached out to brush the stray hair from her forehead, but was startled by her burning hot temperature. I need to cool her down physically. I ran into the bathroom, wet a towel, and came back to gently place it on her forehead. Suwon let out a comfortable sigh in her sleep. Over the next few hours, I was like a dutiful caregiver, regularly changing the towel, taking her temperature, and giving her water. Suwon drifted in and out of sleep, looking surprised each time she woke up to see me, but quickly dozing off again. At 8 in the evening, her temperature finally dropped to 38 degrees. I breathed a sigh of relief, only then realizing how ravenously hungry I was. Just as I was about to head downstairs to find something to eat, Suwon suddenly grabbed my wrist. Don't go. Her voice was so faint it was almost inaudible. I froze in place. Was Suwon trying to keep me here? I'll go get some food. I stammered. I'll be right back. Suwon seemed to understand and slowly let go. I rushed downstairs as if fleeing, my heart pounding like thunder. This isn't right. Something is very wrong. Why am I taking care of her? Why do I get nervous when I see her in pain? Why do I feel a strange sensation when she holds on to me? After heating up the porridge and returning to the bedroom, Suwon was already awake, sitting up against the headboard, looking much more clear-headed. Thank you. She took the bowl of porridge and said softly. I snorted. Don't get the wrong idea. I just don't want you to die in front of me. The police might suspect me. The corners of Suwon's mouth lifted slightly. She took small sips of the porridge, while I sat in the chair pretending to play on my phone, actually secretly observing her. Her complexion looked much better. It seemed the fever reducer was working. Have you been here the whole time? Suwon suddenly asked. I shrugged. What else would I be doing? I thought you'd take the chance to go out and have fun. Am I that kind of person? I rolled my eyes, adding inwardly, though that was indeed what I had planned. Suwon suddenly smiled weakly, but it was a genuine smile. No. We fell into an odd silence. Suwon slowly finished her porridge, and I set the bowl aside, casually taking her temperature again. 37.4, much better. I breathed a sigh of relief. It should go down by tomorrow. Suwon stared at me for a long time, then suddenly said, You're actually really good at taking care of people. No, I'm not. I immediately denied it. Just what? I didn't know either. Seeing her sick like that, I just couldn't stand by and do nothing. Go to sleep, I said stiffly. I'll be right next door. Call me if you need anything. I stood up to leave, but Suwon suddenly said, you. What? Tonight. Can you stay? Her voice was very soft. I'm a bit afraid of having nightmares. My eyes widened. Suwon was acting coy. This was even more shocking than seeing her with a fever. Whatever you say. I stammered, pulling a chair over to sit by the bed. Get some sleep. Suwon nodded and closed her eyes. I sat in the darkness, listening to her steady breathing, my emotions as tangled as an overturned pallet. Why did I stay? Why didn't I take the chance to bring up divorce? Why did seeing her so weak make my heart clench? Moonlight streamed in through the window, falling on Suwon's sleeping face. I suddenly realized that just quietly watching her like this didn't seem so bad. The morning sunlight pierced through the gap in the curtains, stinging my eyes. I groggily opened my eyes and found myself lying beside Suwon's bed in an extremely awkward position, my neck aching as if I had a stiff neck. Suwon was already awake, sitting up against the headboard, holding a tablet in her hand with her brows furrowed. Her complexion had improved a lot, but her lips were still a bit pale. You? Feeling better? I rubbed my neck and sat up straight, my voice hoarse from just waking up. Suwon glanced at me. A classic Suwon-style reply, so concise it's infuriating. I stood up and stretched, my bones letting out an overburdened crackling sound. Good heavens! Had I really slept on this hard chair all night? You should have gone to sleep in the guest room. Suwon said without looking up. You think I wanted to sleep here? I rolled my eyes. Who was it last night that wouldn't let me leave? Suwon's fingers paused on the tablet, the tips of her ears slightly reddening. I was just talking nonsense because of the fever. I was about to argue when I suddenly noticed the news headline on her tablet. Su Group suspected of financial fraud. Stock price plummets 15%. What's going on? I leaned in to get a better look. Suwon quickly locked the screen. Nothing. Just company matters. Hey, I already saw the headline. I frowned. Financial fraud? Is it real or not? Of course it's fake. Suwon said coldly. Someone is just maliciously shorting the market. She threw off the covers and got out of bed. Although her movements were steady, I still noticed her steadying herself on the nightstand. She was still not fully recovered from her illness, but insisted on being tough. This woman, really. Where are you going? I stopped her. The company. Suwon pushed my hand away. Now is not the time to lie down. You still have a fever. So what? Suwon had already walked to the wardrobe to pick out clothes, Every 1% drop in the company's stock price means tens of millions in losses. I opened my mouth, but couldn't find a reason to argue. Indeed, given Sue Wan's personality, she would crawl to the company if she had to. Whatever. I turned and walked toward the door. Don't blame me if you die. I said that, but after going downstairs, I still headed straight to the kitchen. 10 minutes later, I returned to the bedroom with a cup of hot honey water and 2 slices of toast. Eat. I shoved the plate into Sue Wan's hands. I don't want you passing out on the road. Sue Wan was stunned for a moment, then took the plate. Thank you. While she was eating, I secretly checked the news on my phone. The situation was worse than I had imagined. An anonymous letter accused the Sue Group of falsifying profits, accompanied by so-called internal documents. Although they were clearly forged, the capital market had already panicked. How do you plan to handle this? I asked. Sue Wan fastened the last button of her shirt. Hold a press conference to clarify, and have the legal department prepare to file a lawsuit. That's too passive. I shook my head. Against this kind of malicious short selling, mere clarification won't work. You need to find the mastermind behind it and send a stronger signal to the market. Sue Wan's hand, which was tying her tie. Look, she looked at me in surprise. You understand this? I shrugged. Didn't you say I'm a genius at business analysis? Then what's your suggestion? Sue Wan's tone carried a rare hint of seeking advice. I thought for a few seconds. First, immediately announce a major investment or acquisition to showcase the company's financial strength. Second, find a few influential partners to publicly show their support. Most importantly, find out who has been heavily shorting your stock recently. Sue Wan nodded thoughtfully. Makes sense. She picked up her phone and dialed a number. Lin Dion. Notify all executives to meet at 9. Also, contact President Wang and Chairman Chin and tell them I'm treating them to lunch at noon. Hanging up the phone, Sue Wan looked at me. Do you want to come along? Me? I pointed at my own nose. To your company? Aren't you good at business analysis? Sue Wan picked up her briefcase. Just think of it as a consultant. I wanted to refuse, but seeing her pale face, I nodded almost involuntarily. All right, I've got nothing to do today anyway. Half an hour later, we arrived at the headquarters of the Sue Group. As soon as we entered the lobby, I could feel the tense atmosphere. Employees were hurrying about, whispering to each other. And when they saw Sue Wan, they all wore worried expressions. In the elevator, Sue Wan suddenly swayed. I quickly reached out to steady her. Hey, you okay? I'm fine. Sue Wan pushed me away, but her fingers were tightly gripping the strap of her briefcase, her knuckles turning white. The conference room was already filled with executives. Everyone stood up as Sue Wan walked in. Sit down. Sue Wan went straight to the head of the table. Everyone knows the situation. Now let's discuss the response plan. For the next 2 hours, I sat in the corner, quietly observing Sue Wan as she orchestrated her strategy. Though her complexion remained poor, her mind was exceptionally clear, issuing one instruction after another with orderly precision. I couldn't help but feel a hint of admiration for her. I think we should first stabilize the major shareholders, said a slick-haired man. I recognized him as Lin Dion, especially the Zhao family. They hold a 15% stake. If they sell off, the Zhao family won't sell. Sue Wan interrupted him. I have a connection with Zhao Shiqing. Lin Ziyuan's expression darkened. But Zhao Shiqing has been pursuing you. Now that news of your marriage has been made public. That's my personal matter, Sue Wan said coldly. Next topic. I let out a mental whistle. Wow. So Sue Wan had suitors? And a big shot holding a 15% stake? Interesting. I think Vice President Lin has a point. A female executive spoke up. We should take a two-pronged approach, clarify the situation while finding influential partners to back us up. For example, Sue Wan asked. For example, Hashin Group. They've been expanding into overseas markets recently, which perfectly complements our business. I couldn't help but laugh out loud. Everyone turned to look at me in unison. Sorry. I raised my hand. But Hashin's own capital chain is almost broken. Relying on them for support. Isn't that just suicide? The meeting room fell silent. Suwon squinted her eyes. How do you know Hashin has a funding chain problem? Oh. I only then realized I had let it slip. I saw it in financial news. Which financial media outlet? Suwon pressed on. I can't remember clearly. I looked away. Anyway, I just have that impression. Suwon looked at me thoughtfully for a moment, then turned to the others. Mr. Cheen is right. Hashin is not a good choice. Any other suggestions? After the meeting, most people left, leaving only a few core executives to discuss the details. Suwon called me aside. What you just said about Hashin, is it true? I nodded. They lost all their investments in Southeast Asia last year. Now they're barely staying afloat with short-term loans. How do you know all this? Suwon's sharp gaze seemed capable of seeing through my lies. I sighed. All right. I occasionally help friends with some business analysis. Freelance stuff. What kind of friends? Just some investment firms. I said vaguely. I help them analyze company financial reports and things like that. Suwon was about to press further when Lin Zuan walked over. President Su. The press conference is scheduled for 3 o'clock. Okay. Suwon nodded, then glanced at me again. You're coming with me to the press conference. Me? I widened my eyes. What am I going there for? You're my husband. Of course, we need to appear together at a time like this. Suwon's tone left no room for argument. It sends a signal of family stability to the market. I opened my mouth to refuse, but seeing the exhaustion in her eyes, I swallowed my words. Fine. I might as well see this through to the end. Before the press conference, Suwon's assistant hurried over. President Su, I found some clues. The one shorting us is an overseas hedge fund, but there may be domestic capital pulling the strings behind it. Find out who it is. Suwon ordered. The assistant hesitated for a moment. There are signs. It might be the Zhao family. Suwon's face instantly turned pale. I overheard clearly from the side, and my heart sank. It seems that suitor Zhao Shirqing is no good guy. At the press conference, Suwon performed flawlessly. She calmly refuted the allegations of financial fraud while announcing a new energy project in collaboration with a state-owned enterprise. When a reporter asked about our marriage, she even took the initiative to hold my hand and offered a rare smile. My husband has given me tremendous support. The camera flashes erupted in a frenzy. I played along and wrapped my arm around her waist, thinking to myself, what a great performance. I almost believed it myself. On the way back to the office, Suwon's steps were noticeably unsteady. I quickly supported her. Enough. You need to rest. There's still one more meeting. Suwon protested weakly. Cancel it, I said firmly, half dragging and half carrying her into the break room in the office. Lie down. That's an order. Suwon rarely resisted and collapsed onto the bed. I touched her forehead. She was burning up again. Damn it. I fished out the fever medicine. Take the medicine. Suwon obediently swallowed the pill and closed her eyes. I sat by the bed, watching her furrowed brows, and couldn't help but gently smooth them out. Why are you helping me? Suwon suddenly asked, her eyes still closed. I was taken aback for a moment. What? Today? She said softly, you could have just left it alone. I shrugged, even though I knew she couldn't see me. I had nothing better to do anyway. Suwon's lips curled slightly. Liar. Hey, I was just being nice. I know. Suwon interrupted me. Thank you. I was speechless. Suwon actually said thank you. That's a first. After resting for a while, Suwon insisted on going home. In the car, she leaned against the window with her eyes closed, resting, while I looked up information about the Su group on my phone. The more I look at it, the more I feel this short-selling attack is malicious, executed with professional tactics and precise timing, clearly involving insider collaboration. Who do you think it is? Suwon suddenly asked. I hesitated for a moment. There's a high possibility of a mole. Suwon nodded. I think so too. The most suspicious one is Lindsay. Suwan and I said the name at the same time. We exchanged a glance, both somewhat surprised. Suwan looked away first. He's always wanted to replace me. This crisis just gave him the opportunity. Do you need me to look into it? The words were barely out of my mouth before I regretted them. Why did I volunteer for this? Suwan looked at me in surprise. You know how to check this? Oh, I know a little. I said vaguely. I've done similar things for friends before. Suwan nodded thoughtfully. All right. When we got home, Suwan took her medicine and went to sleep. I turned on my computer and began tracking the hedge fund that was shorting the Sioux group. The hacking skills I learned from a friend surprisingly hadn't faded away completely. A few hours later, I found some clues. At 2 in the morning, I was staring blankly at the capital flowchart on the screen when a cup of hot milk suddenly appeared in front of me. Still awake, Suwan stood behind me, wearing a robe with her hair loose, looking much softer than she did during the day. Found something. I took the milk and pointed at the screen. Look at this funding path that goes through several offshore companies. But it ultimately points to Zhao Shirqing, Suwan said coldly. I looked at her in surprise. How do you know? Just a guess. Suwan sat down beside me. He's always wanted to control the Sioux group. Pursuing me was just one of his methods. I whistled. So this time it's if I can't have it. No one can. Something like that. Suwan stared at the screen. But this evidence isn't solid enough yet. I can dig deeper. I yawned. But it'll have to wait until tomorrow. Suwan suddenly reached out and touched my face. You look exhausted. This sudden intimate gesture made my whole body stiffen. Suwan's hand was cold, but its touch burned like fire. I'm fine. I stammered. You should go to sleep soon. You're still not fully recovered. Suwan withdrew her hand and stood up. You should rest early too. She walked to the door, then turned back and said, By the way, come with me somewhere tomorrow. Where? Family dinner. Suwan's voice was calm. My parents said they want to meet you. My eyes widened. Wait, didn't we agree not to meet each other's parents? But after my parents found out I got married, they came straight over. Suwan smiled slightly. So, I need you to put on an act. I suddenly had a bad feeling. What kind of act? The act of a loving couple. Suwan said before leaving me staring blankly at the computer screen. A loving couple. With that ice queen, and in front of her parents. Wouldn't that make it even harder to get a divorce? No, this might actually be an opportunity. As long as I can make Suwan's parents dislike me, getting a divorce might become much simpler. I lay in bed excitedly, thinking about tomorrow's plan, and before I knew it, I slowly drifted off to sleep. Early the next morning, right after breakfast, Suwan told me to change clothes. Are you sure you want to wear this? Suwan stood at the entrance of the dressing room, frowning at the floral shirt in my hand. I deliberately shook the disaster of a shirt, red and green with palm tree patterns, and said, What's wrong? It's perfect for meeting the parents. My parents prefer steady people. Suwan said flatly, What a coincidence. I'm the least steady person around. I grinned, quickly slipped on the floral shirt, and paired it with a pair of wrinkled khakis. How do I look? Like a good-for-nothing kept man? Suwan looked me up and down, a faint smile curling at the corner of her mouth. Suit yourself. This reaction was off. Shouldn't she be angrily ordering me to change clothes? Let's go. We're going to be late. Suwan turned and walked downstairs, her high heels clicking sharply. I quickly caught up. Hey, do your parents know we're in a contract marriage? I don't know. Suwan didn't look back. They think we're truly in love. What? I nearly tumbled down the stairs. You lied to them. Suwan turned around at the bottom of the stairs and looked up at me. Is there a problem? Of course there is. I rushed down the stairs 2 or 3 steps at a time. What if we get caught later? Then don't slip up. Suwan handed me a gift bag. This is tea for my dad. Remember, you bought it specially from Hangzhou. I stared at the beautifully wrapped gift box. When did I? No. Suwon cut me off and shoved another small box into my hands. This is a pearl necklace for my mom. Say you picked it out during your trip to Japan last month. Wait, and another thing. Suwon didn't give me a chance to speak. My dad likes to talk about politics. Don't chime in. My mom will ask if we want kids. Just say we'll let nature take its course. My mouth hung open as I stood there like an idiot. Was this woman treating me like a puppet on strings? Got it. Suwon raised an eyebrow. Like hell I do. I finally found my voice. Your parents aren't fools. Who do you think we're fooling with this act? Suwon suddenly leaned in, so close that I could smell the faint perfume on her. Chin you, help me this time, and I'll give you an extra 10 million when we divorce. My breath caught. 60 million. That's 60 million. Deal. I immediately changed my expression, putting on a fawning smile. My dear in-laws will surely love me. Suwon rolled her eyes and turned toward the garage. I trotted along behind her, already starting to calculate how to spend the 60 million. In the car, I asked while fastening my seatbelt. By the way, why don't you tell your parents the truth? Suwon's fingers tightened on the steering wheel. They're very traditional. They wouldn't accept a contract marriage. Oh. I nodded, then suddenly had a flash of insight. Wait. How did I let this woman trick me? I'm supposed to be getting a divorce. If I don't divorce, even if she adds 10 million, it won't reach my hands. No, I still need to make her parents hate me. I thought to myself, if they think their son-in-law is a loser, they'll definitely persuade her to divorce. Then 50 million should be enough. Suwon slammed on the brakes, and I nearly hit the windshield. What are you doing? Red light, Suwon said expressionlessly, but I clearly saw the corner of her mouth twitch. Strange. Was she holding back a laugh? I continued my genius plan in my mind. I'll just act rude and impolite, smack my lips while eating, boss her around, and pick a fight with her dad. At that moment, Suwon said in a light, airy tone, watch your behavior. If you don't perform well and my parents persuade me to divorce you, then the 60 million will be gone. I widened my eyes. Is that a threat? It's motivation. Suwon corrected. Good performance earns the bonus. I leaned back in my seat, fuming, cursing Suwon out in my mind. This woman is an absolute devil. Mind reading must have been my imagination. She's clearly a calculating capitalist. Suwon's parents live in a villa district on the outskirts of the city. As soon as the car came to a stop, a well-dressed middle-aged couple came out to greet us. Suwon's mother was well-preserved, looking at least 10 years younger than her actual age. Her father, on the other hand, had a stern face, the classic image of a retired old cadre. Dad, Mom. Suwon got out of the car, a rare smile spreading across her face. Won. Sue's mother hugged her daughter tightly, then turned her gaze to me. So this is Xiao-Qin. Hello, Uncle and Auntie. I immediately switched to my well-behaved mode, presenting the gifts with both hands. These are some tea leaves and a necklace I brought for you both, just a small token of respect. Sue's mother's eyes curved into crescents as she smiled. What a thoughtful child. Father Sue took the tea and nodded solemnly. Hangzhou Longjing. Not bad. I secretly glanced at Suwon, who was looking at me with a faint, knowing smile. Once inside, Mother Sue pulled me aside and asked all sorts of questions. Xiao-Qin, how did you and Wang meet? Oh, I was momentarily at a loss for words. At a business forum. Suwon naturally continued. He was a specially invited analyst at the time. I looked at her in surprise. Was she really that smooth at telling lies? Really? Sue's father became interested. You know economics? I know a little. I said modestly. What do you think about the stock market lately? Dad, Sue suddenly asked. Dad, don't talk about work during meals. Suwon was afraid I might say something inappropriate. The lunch was astonishingly lavish, all home-cooked dishes made by Sue's mother. I took a bite of the braised pork belly and was almost moved to tears It was way better than Su Wan's health meals measured by the gram. Is it delicious? Mom Su asked expectantly. It's absolutely delicious, I exclaimed sincerely. Hey, your cooking is incredible. Mom Su beamed with joy and kept piling food onto my plate. I ate with such abandon that I completely forgot about my plan to perform poorly. Xiao Qin, Father Su suddenly spoke up. I heard you're a freelancer. Oh no. Here comes the tough question. I put down my chopsticks, bracing myself for the storm. Yes, Uncle. I answered honestly. I mainly help some investment firms with analysis reports. Is your income stable? Father Su's question hit the nail on the head. I started sweating on my forehead. According to the script, I should be boasting about how great I am right now, but not very stable, I said, surprising even myself with the honesty. The competition in this industry is fierce. Sometimes I go a whole month without landing a single job. Su Wan kicked me under the table again, this time noticeably harder. I winced in pain but continued, though it's been better lately. Su Wan introduced me to a few regular clients. Father Su's expression softened a bit. Wan said you're very talented. She flatters me. I scratched my head sheepishly. Actually, I wasted some time after graduating from university. It was only after meeting Su Wan that I picked up my profession again. That statement was half true, half false, but it came out surprisingly smoothly. Su Wan looked at me in surprise, as if she hadn't expected me to say that. It's normal for young people to have ups and downs. Father Su actually smiled. What matters is not giving up. After lunch, Father Su pulled me into the study to play chess. My chess skills were terrible, but surprisingly, I had a great conversation with him. From the economic situation to history and politics, I realized that this retired veteran cadre was actually a very insightful person. Xiao Qin, as they started the third game, Uncle Su suddenly said, Wan has always been strong-willed since she was a child, keeping everything bottled up inside. I can tell she's become much more cheerful since she's been with you. My hand trembled, and I placed the chess piece in the wrong spot. Huh? Really? Last time on the video call, she actually smiled, Uncle Su said with emotion. Her mother, and I haven't seen her smile like that in years. A sudden pang of unease stirred in my heart. Su Wan always keeps a straight face when she's with me. Wait, could it be that she secretly smiles behind my back? Checkmate, Father Su suddenly said. Only then did I realize that my general had already been checkmated. Oh, I lost. You're distracted. Father Su put away the chess pieces, thinking about Wan. No, I immediately denied it, but my ears inexplicably grew hot. Back in the living room, Su Wan and her mother were flipping through a photo album. I leaned in and saw a photo of a little girl in a ballet dress. This is Wan at 6, Su's mother said with a smile. Her first time performing on stage. She was so nervous she moved the same arm and leg. Mom. Su Wan blushed. A rare sight. I couldn't help but laugh out loud. Really? Even President Su has moments of being all thumbs? Su Wan shot me a glare, but I could see a long-lost ease in her eyes. Sunlight streamed through the window, casting a glow on her face. At that moment, she looked so vibrant, a world apart from the icy, formidable woman in the office. I suddenly realized that this was the first time I had seen the real Su Wan, not the contract wife, not the CEO of the Su Group, just an ordinary girl who gets shy in front of her parents. On the way back, the car was unusually quiet. I stole a glance at Su Wan's profile, recalling what her father had said, and felt an indescribable emotion inside. Today. Thank you. Su Wan suddenly broke the silence. Huh? I was momentarily caught off guard. My parents haven't been this happy in a long time. Su Wan's voice was very soft, especially seeing you finish all the dishes my mom made. I scratched my head. That braised pork was really delicious. Chin. Su Wan suddenly pulled the car over to the side of the road and turned to me. You did an amazing job today. So, is there a reward? No. Suwon looked me straight in the eye. Weren't you supposed to act like a lazy freeloader? Why did you change your mind? I was at a loss for words. Yeah, why? I could have easily made Suwon's parents dislike me. So why did I end up? Because your dad is a pretty nice guy. I finally said. That 60 million is pretty tempting. Suwon stared at me for a few seconds, then suddenly laughed. Liar. Hey, I fastened your seatbelt. Suwon didn't let me finish. Restarting the car. Let's go home. Home. The word coming from Suwon's mouth somehow carried a strange warmth. That night, lying on the guest room bed, I replayed the events of the day. Suwon's parents' attitude toward me, the words her father said, and the relaxed way Suwon behaved in front of them. Everything left my mind in a mess. My phone suddenly rang. It was a message from Chinming. Bro, how's the plan going? Has Suwon filed for divorce yet? I stared at the screen, suddenly at a loss for how to reply. What was once a clear plan had now turned into a tangled mess. What exactly do I want? 50 million? Freedom? Or complicated? I finally replied, then turned off my phone. The next morning, I slept until I naturally woke up. When I went downstairs, Suwon had already left for work. There was a note left on the dining table. The braised pork my mom made for you is in the fridge. I opened the fridge, and sure enough, there was a container with a label that read for Shaoqin. A sudden warmth surged in my heart. While heating up the food in the microwave, I turned on the TV. The financial channel was reporting the latest updates on the Su Group. The stock price has rebounded to pre-short selling levels. It is reported that President Suwon is about to announce a major partnership. The screen cut to a shot of Suwon at a press conference. Dressed in a well-fitted suit, she answered reporters' questions with confidence and composure. Looking at her radiant figure on the screen, I suddenly realized how vast the gap between us truly was. The microwave's ding interrupted my thoughts. I took out the braised pork, its aroma filling the air. Yet I suddenly lost my appetite. My phone rang again. This time it was Suwon. Are you free tonight? Let me treat you to dinner. I stared at the message as if I had spotted an alien creature. Suwon, offering to treat me to dinner? Was the sun rising from the west? Why? I replied, thank you for your performance yesterday. She replied, my parents really liked you. I stared at the message, my heart a mix of emotions. What they liked was an illusion a good son-in-law I had temporarily played. If they knew the truth. My phone buzzed again. 6 o'clock. Shandong restaurant. Don't be late. A typical Suwon-style command. I shook my head and replied with a single word. Okay. Putting down my phone, I walked to the window and looked out at the sunlight. Suddenly, I wondered what it would be like if there were no contract, if we were truly husband and wife. The thought startled me. I shook my head, pushing it out of my mind. Don't be foolish. Chin you. Don't forget your 50 million. No, it's 60 million now. But why? When I think of 60 million, does my heart no longer leap with joy as it used to? Shandong Restaurant is the most expensive Cantonese restaurant in the city, rumored to cost an ordinary person a month's salary for a single meal. I stood at the entrance, tugging at the only decent dark blue suit I owned, feeling utterly out of place. Do you have a reservation, sir? The doorman asked politely. Suwon made the reservation, I said quietly. The doorman's expression immediately turned respectful. So you're a guest of President Su. Please follow me. He led me through the opulent lobby to a semi-private booth. Suwon had already arrived and was looking down at some documents. Today, she wore a dark green dress, with her hair loosely tied up, revealing her slender neck. Under the soft lighting, she looked as beautiful as a painting. You're here, Suwon said without looking up. Yeah. I pulled out a chair and sat down. How are your parents doing? Great. My mom even asked when we could invite you to dinner again. Suwon closed the file and finally looked up at me. Let's order. I opened the menu and gasped at the prices. 4 digits for a single dish? What a ripoff. You order. I'm not familiar with this place. I quickly closed the menu and pushed it toward her. Suwon raised an eyebrow. Last time at the Japanese restaurant, you ordered quite professionally. That's Japanese cuisine. And this is Cantonese, different. I let out a dry chuckle. Suwon didn't say anything more and skillfully ordered a few signature dishes. After the waiter left, the private room fell into an awkward silence. So, I scratched my head. Why are you treating me to dinner today? Suwon picked up her teacup and took a sip. I already told you. Thank you for yesterday. Come on. I interrupted her. Let's skip the formalities between us. What's the real matter? Suwon put down her teacup and looked me straight in the eye. Zhao Shirqing is back. I paused for a moment. Oh, you mean that former suitor of yours? Yeah. Suwon's expression turned serious. He contacted me this morning, saying he wants to discuss a collaboration. Cooperate. I frowned. You mean the guy who stabbed you in the back? There's no direct evidence it was him. Suwon said calmly. Besides, in business, there are no permanent enemies. I let out a scoff. So he nearly ruined your company. And now he's grinning and coming to talk about cooperation? That's exactly what I wanted to discuss with you. Suwon's voice lowered. He invited me to dinner alone tomorrow night. My fingers unconsciously clenched the napkin. Alone? Yeah. Suwon observed my reaction. Do you think I should go? Whatever you want. I forced myself to relax. After all, we're just in a contractual relationship. You can see whoever you like. Suwon squinted her eyes. Really? Of course. I spread my hands dramatically. I'm not that kind of petty husband, all right? Then I'll go. Suwon said bluntly. My heart suddenly felt as if stuffed with a wad of cotton. Heavy and stifling. The waiter happened to serve the dishes, temporarily easing the awkwardness. I mechanically picked at the food, eating without tasting. By the way, Suwon suddenly said, there's a charity auction tomorrow evening. You go my place. Me? My eyes widened. Why? I want to see Zhao Shirqing. Remember? Suwon said calmly. I put down my chopsticks. Suwon, what exactly are you plotting? I'm not plotting anything. Suwon wiped the corner of her mouth. I just think you should participate in more social activities. After all. What? After all, you are my husband now, at least in the eyes of the public. Suwon's tone suddenly turned sharp, and I don't want to hear anyone calling you my kept man anymore. I stood up abruptly, the chair scraping loudly against the floor. Who said that? A lot of people. Suwon looked at me calmly. Ever since the day we got married. These rumors have never stopped. My chest felt as if struck by a heavy hammer, although I had been pretending not to care. Hearing those words come out of Suwon's mouth still stung. I'm going to the restroom. I turned and left the private room, needing some space to calm down. In the restroom, I splashed cold water on my face several times and stared at myself in the mirror. For 2 years, I had been playing the role of Suwon's contract husband, attending various occasions and enduring the contemptuous glances of those wealthy men. But it never occurred to me that Suwon was also under so much pressure. Back in the private room, Suwon was on the phone. See me come in. She briefly said, see you tomorrow, and hung up. Zhao Shirqing? I asked. Suwon nodded. He changed his mind. He wants to meet at the charity auction. I clenched my fists. So now I don't have to go. No, you still have to go. Suwon's gaze turned complicated. He said, he hopes we attend together as a couple. I let out a cold laugh. How generous. Cheating you. Suwon suddenly reached out and placed her hand over mine. If you don't want to go, I'll go. I interrupted her. Of course I'll go. How could I miss the chance to meet your former suitor? Suwon frowned but said nothing. We finished the rest of the meal in silence. The atmosphere as heavy as lead. Returning home, Suwon went straight to the study. I sat on the living room sofa and searched for information about Zhao Shirqing on my phone. A flood of news immediately popped up on the screen. Business prodigy Zhao Shirqing returns to China. Zhao Group Air achieves new success in overseas acquisitions. Diamond Bachelor Zhao Shirqing. There's someone in his heart. The last gossip article prominently featured an old photo of Su Wan and Zhao Shirqing together. In the photo, a younger Su Wan, dressed in an evening gown, stood beside the tall and handsome Zhao Shirqing. The two of them looked dazzlingly well-matched. I turned off my phone, my chest aching with a dull pain. This is the kind of man Su Wan deserves, isn't it? Business elite, a scion of a prestigious family, not someone like me. A kept man without even a proper job. The next evening, I put on the suit Su Wan had chosen for me and stood in front of the full-length mirror, adjusting my tie. The man in the mirror looked presentable, but I knew it was all an illusion. Without this designer outfit, I was nothing. Are you ready? Su Wan appeared at the doorway. She was wearing a backless gown tonight, her hair pinned up, revealing the perfect lines of her shoulders and neck. The diamond necklace around her neck sparkled brilliantly. Yeah, I nodded stiffly. In the car, Su Wan was reading documents the whole time, while I stared at the rapidly receding street scenes outside the window, my heart feeling as heavy as a stone. Listen, Su Wan suddenly closed the file. No matter what Zhao Shirqing says tonight, don't act impulsively. I sneered. What? Afraid I'll embarrass you? I'm afraid you'll get the short end of the stick. Su Wan frowned. Zhao Shirqing is not an easy opponent. Thanks for your concern, I said sourly, but I can't take care of myself. Su Wan sighed and said nothing more. The charity auction was held on the top floor of the Peninsula Hotel. As the elevator doors opened, I was stunned by the luxury before me. Crystal chandeliers, champagne towers, elegantly dressed celebrities. This was a world I clearly didn't belong to. President Su. A deep male voice called out from behind. I turned around and saw a tall, handsome man striding over. He was wearing a custom-tailored tuxedo, exuding the elegance and composure of high society in every gesture. This was Zhao Shirqing, even more dazzling than in his photos. Mr. Zhao. Su Wan nodded politely. Zhao Shirqing completely ignored me and took Su Wan's hand. Long time no see. You've become even more beautiful. Su Wan withdrew her hand without changing her expression. Thank you. This is my husband. Qin Yu. Zhao Shirqing finally looked at me, his gaze as contemptuous as if he were looking at a fly. Oh, I've heard so much about you. Mr. Su's husband. He deliberately emphasized the word husband, drawing snickers from a few people nearby. Hello, President Zhao. I extended my hand. I've long heard of your reputation. Zhao Shirqing perfunctorily shook my hand and immediately turned to Su Wan. Wan, I have a few friends who want to meet you regarding that collaboration project. Su Wan hesitated for a moment, glanced at me, and said, why don't you look around on your own first? Of course, forced a smile. You two go ahead. Watching Su Wan and Zhao Shirqing walk away, I clenched my fists. So this is the life Su Wan wants, isn't it? Being with an elite like Zhao Shirqing, casually discussing deals worth hundreds of millions, rather than being stuck with a worthless loser like me who doesn't even have a job. I casually grabbed a glass of champagne and wandered alone at the edge of the venue. From time to time, curious glances were cast my way, followed by hushed whispers. I didn't need to hear them to know what they were saying. That's Su Wan's kept man. I heard he loafs around all day. Who knows what boss Su sees in him? Glass after glass. I drank a bit too much. The alcohol blurred those harsh voices, but it also made my pride even more sensitive. Mr. Qin? A strange voice sounded. I looked up and saw a slick-haired, flashy man standing before me. It was Lin Ziyuan, Su Wan's vice president. Vice President Lin. I nodded, struggling to stay sober. Drinking alone? Lin Ziyuan asked with feigned concern. Where's President Su? Discussing business. I replied briefly. Oh, with Mr. Zhao. Lin Ziyuan smiled meaningfully. They go way back. Back then. They almost. Almost what? I narrowed my eyes. Nothing. Lin Ziyuan pretended to have slipped up. By the way, I heard you've been helping President Su analyze some data recently. I became alert. How do you know that? There are no secrets in the company. Lin Juan took a sip of his drink. But I'd advise you not to get too invested. After all, once President Su and President Zhao collaborate, the company's structure will undergo major adjustments. What do you mean? Exactly what I said. Lin Zhen lowered his voice. President Zhao has always had his eyes on the Su group, and now he still has lingering feelings for President Su. You know what I mean? I stood up abruptly. What exactly are you trying to say? Don't get worked up. Lin Juan took a step back. I'm just giving you a friendly reminder. Once they get back together, you, the contract husband, will have to step aside, won't you? My blood ran cold in an instant. You know? Just a guess. Lin Yuan smiled smugly. After all, how could CEO Su actually fall for someone like you? I turned and walked away before he could finish speaking, my heart pounding wildly. How did Lin Yuan know our secret? Did Su Wan tell him? Or has our relationship become so obvious that everyone knows about it? At the center of the venue, the auctioneer was introducing a piece of jewelry. From a distance, I saw Su Wan and Zhao Shiqing sitting in the front row. Zhao Shiqing's hand was intimately resting on the back of Su Wan's chair as he leaned in to whisper something in her ear. I couldn't see Su Wan's expression clearly, but she didn't pull away. A sudden sharp pain struck my chest. I set down my glass and quietly left the venue. Only when the night wind blew against my burning face did I realize I was already in tears. How ridiculous. Was I actually jealous over a contract wife? Heartbroken over a woman who was never mine? Back at the villa, I went straight to the guest room and started packing my luggage. This 2-year farce should come to an end. Suwon doesn't need a burden like me. I don't want to continue this life of self-humiliation either. 50 million? 60 million? Screw it. Some things are far more important than money. I didn't take a single one of those designer suits Suwon bought for me in the closet. I only brought my old clothes and laptop. Taking one last look around this room I never truly belonged to, I gently closed the door. In the living room, I left a note. Contract terminated. Wishing you happiness. 8 simple words. Yet they drained every ounce of my strength. I put down the keys and dragged my suitcase toward the door. Just then, the sound of the door lock turning rang out. Suwon stood at the doorway, her face pale. Where are you going? Suwon's voice cut through the silent living room like a knife. She stood at the door, still in her high heels, clutching the car keys in her hand, her chest heaving violently. I froze in place, the handle of the suitcase pressing a deep mark into my palm. I'm just going out for some air. Taking your suitcase out for some air? Suwon sneered, her gaze falling on the note in my hand. What's that? I instinctively crumpled the note into a ball. Nothing. Suwon strode over, snatched the note from me, and unfolded it. Her eyes quickly scanned the 8 characters, her expression growing darker by the second. What does this mean? She looked up, glaring at me, her voice trembling slightly. Literally. I looked away. The contract is terminated. You're free. I don't agree. Suwon tore the note into pieces. We sign a contract, then consider it a breach on my part. I let out a bitter laugh. Just deduct the penalty from my 50 million. Shame you. Suwon suddenly raised her voice. What the hell is wrong with you? Am I losing my mind? I couldn't help but roar back, watching you and Zhao Shiqing get all lovey-dovey. And I have to act like nothing's wrong, listening to everyone mock me as a kept man, and I still have to smile and take it. Suwon's eyes widened. You care about all this? No kidding. I yanked off my tie. What man wouldn't care? But you've always acted like. Because it's in the contract. I interrupted her. Play the loving couple. Remember. But I can't keep acting anymore. Suwon's face turned pale. Is it because of Zhao Shiqing? Not just him. I took a deep breath. Linton knows our secret. He told me that once you and Zhao Shiqing get back together, as your contract husband, Should step aside. Suwon's pupils suddenly contracted. How does he know? You're asking me. I sneered. I should be asking you. Did you tell him? Of course not. Suwon snapped. How could I possibly? It doesn't matter. I waved my hand wearily. It was going to end sooner or later anyway. Might as well leave now. At least I can keep a little dignity. I reached for my suitcase, but Suwon grabbed my hand. Wait. Her fingers were ice cold, yet they burned me like a branding iron, making me shudder. Is there something else? I asked, hardening my heart. Suwon bit her lip, as if struggling with something. Finally, she looked up and met my eyes. Lindron was wrong. Zhao Shirqing and I will never get back together. There was never any possibility of that. Why? I sneered. Because he nearly ruined your company? Come on, Suwon. There are no permanent enemies in business. You said that yourself? It's not because of that. Suwon's voice suddenly became very soft. It's because I already have someone I like. My heart skipped a beat. Who? Suwon didn't answer. Instead, she let go of my hand, walked over to the liquor cabinet, and poured 2 glasses of whiskey. She handed one to me and downed a large gulp herself. Yu. Her voice was slightly hoarse from the alcohol. If I tell you a secret, can you promise not to run away? I looked at her warily. What secret? Promise me first. All right, I promise. Suwon took a deep breath, as if gathering her courage. I can hear your thoughts. I froze for a second, then let out a scoffing laugh. What? I can hear what you're thinking. Suwon said slowly, word by word. Ever since the day we decided to get divorced, I suddenly became able to hear your thoughts. I stared at her, trying to find any trace of a joke. But Suwon's expression was terrifyingly serious. You're crazy. I took a step back. Mind reading. Do you think we're filming a sci-fi movie? Last Wednesday morning, you cursed me in your mind, calling me a controlling, obsessive, cold-faced person. Suwon said calmly. Yesterday afternoon, when you saw me talking to Zhao Shirqing, you thought to yourself, they really look perfect together. My blood instantly ran cold. These were thoughts I had indeed had, but never spoken aloud. And also, Suwon continued, when you deliberately hit Chairman Ma with a golf ball on the course, you cheered inwardly. She must be furious now. The wine glass in my hand crashed to the floor with a clatter, whiskey spilling everywhere. This is impossible. Absolutely impossible. Prove it to me. My voice trembled. If it's really as you say, what am I thinking right now? Suwon stared into my eyes and slowly spoke. You're thinking, if this is real, then when I was in the bathroom looking at her photo. Stop. I interrupted her, my face burning red. Enough. I believe you. Oh my God. This is so embarrassing. She actually. My brain has completely shut down. A faint smile curled at the corner of Suwon's lips. Believe me now. I collapsed onto the sofa, covering my face with both hands. So, for the past 2 months, you've been able to hear every thought I've had? Even the ones cursing you? The indecent ones? Especially those. Suwon's voice carried a hint of laughter. I let out a groan, wishing I could find a hole to crawl into. How embarrassing. I've never felt this humiliated in my entire life. Wait, a thought suddenly struck me. So you've known all along that I wanted a divorce for the 50 million? Suwon nodded. I knew from the very first day. Then why didn't you expose me? Because Suwon hesitated, which was rare for her. At first, I found it amusing. But later what? Later I realized you weren't as shallow as you appeared on the surface. Suwon said softly, you worried when I was sick, showed your best side in front of my parents, and stepped up when my company was in crisis. I was speechless. So she knew everything, had seen it all. So I struggled to speak. You kept me because I like you. Suwon looked me straight in the eyes. Not the contractual kind of like. The real kind. My heart pounded as if struck by a heavy hammer. Suwon likes me? That ice-cold beauty Suwon. The unattainable president of the Su group. You're joking, right? I stammered. A good-for-nothing slacker like me. How could you possibly? You're not a good-for-nothing. Suwon interrupted me. You're just used to pretending. In reality, you're smarter than most people and kinder than most. I opened my mouth, but no words came out. No one had ever said that about me before, not even my parents. And besides, Suwon added, I've heard every thought in your heart, the good and the bad, and I still fell in love with the real you. Those words were like a key, unlocking the tightly sealed door of my heart. I suddenly realized why seeing her with Zhao Shurqing made me so uncomfortable. Why the thought of leaving was so painful. Because I fucking fell in love with her. Not the pretense of a contract. Not coveting her wealth. But truly, genuinely falling for the strong, intelligent, and occasionally gentle woman. My voice trembled. I like you too. Suwon's eyes lit up. Really? Yeah. I nodded. Even though you have a bad temper. A strong need for control. And you're a workaholic. Suwon raised an eyebrow. Are you sure this is a confession? But you are who you are. I took a deep breath. I think I've fallen in love with this version of you. Suwon suddenly smiled. It was the most beautiful smile I had ever seen. She stepped forward and gently hugged me. So, can you stay now? I hugged her back, breathing in the fragrance of her hair. I'm not leaving. We stood there, embracing in the living room. Neither of us saying a word. After a long while, Suwon finally let go of me. By the way, about Linza, how did he find out our secret? I frowned. I'm just guessing, Suwon said thoughtfully. He's always wanted to replace me, so he might have looked into you. And Zhao Shurqing, I said sourly. You two seem to be having a great time chatting tonight. Suwon rolled her eyes. I was pumping him for information. He was indeed involved in shorting the Su group. But the evidence isn't enough yet. So you're using him? Suwon smirked slyly. Just like how you wanted to use me to get that 50 million back then. My face flushed with embarrassment. Can we just move past that? Not a chance. Suwon poked my chest. I'll use this to tease you for the rest of your life. Fine, since I've got nothing left now anyway. Isai dramatically didn't get the money, and I've even lost myself in the process. Suwon suddenly turned serious. Cheating you about this. If you really want that money, stop right there. I covered her mouth. If I took the money and ran now, wouldn't that make me a real scumbag? Suwon pulled my hand down. I'm serious. If you have your own career plans, I do have an idea. I hesitated for a moment. You said before that I could work at Su Corporation. Does that offer still stand? Suwon's eyes lit up. Of course. But I don't want special treatment. I said seriously. I want to prove through my own ability that I am worthy of you. Suwon's gaze softened. Silly. You've long been worthy of me. A warmth surged in my heart, and I leaned in to kiss her. Suwon's lips were softer than I had imagined, carrying the rich aroma of whiskey. She responded to my kiss, her fingers gripping my collar tightly, just as we were lost in the kiss. Suwon's phone suddenly rang. She glanced at it impatiently. Then her expression changed drastically. It's an urgent call from the company. Answer it, I said, letting her go. Suwon picked up the phone, her expression growing increasingly serious. When did this happen? I'll be there right away. What's wrong? I asked immediately after she hung up. Something's happened. Suwon's face turned pale. Lin Yuan has resigned en masse with the core team and poached several of our major clients. At the same time, rumors about quality issues with Su Group's products have surfaced online, and the stock price has started to plummet. Gasped. Zhao Shurqing did this? It must be him and Lin Yuan working together. Suwon had already regained her composure, and strode quickly toward the study. I need to handle this immediately. Followed up. How can I help? Soo-won opened her computer without looking up and said, help me contact a few mainstream media outlets to prepare a clarification statement. Then look into the backgrounds of those clients to see if there's any chance of salvaging things. Got it, President Sue. I gave a half-joking salute. Soo-won looked up at me, the corners of her mouth lifting slightly. Welcome to the Sue Group. Consultant Sheen. Over the next 72 hours, we barely slept. Soo-won was responsible for crisis management and internal stability, while I used my analytical expertise and media connections to help her organize information and formulate strategies. During this process, I saw a completely new side of Soo-won, resilient, decisive, and unflappable in the face of danger. Even when confronted with the biggest crisis in the company's history, she never showed a trace of panic. This charm fascinates me even more than her beauty. On the third day, in the early morning, when we finally got the situation under control, Soo-won was so exhausted that she fell asleep on her desk. I gently picked her up, intending to take her back to the bedroom. Just then, her phone vibrated. A text message popped up on the screen. From Zhao Shurqing. The game has just begun. Either leave Qin Yu or watch the Sue Group go bankrupt. Your choice. My blood ran cold in an instant. So all this was because of me. I stared at the text message, my fingers unconsciously tightening. That bastard Zhao Shurqing actually used the entire Sue Corporation to threaten Soo-won into leaving me? Soo-won in my arms stirred slightly, her brows furrowing, as if she could sense my anger even in her sleep. I took a deep breath, gently carried her to the bedroom, and carefully laid her on the bed. The moment Soo-won's head touched the pillow, she curled up like a weary child. I softly covered her with a blanket and couldn't help but plant a kiss on her forehead. Returning to the study, I picked up her phone again. Reason told me I should wake her up to discuss a plan, but looking at her tired, sleeping face, I just couldn't bring myself to do it. She had barely slept in 3 days, and now she had finally managed to fall asleep. I put down my phone and opened my laptop. Since Zhao Shurqing had declared war, I had to be prepared. He wasn't the first to underestimate me, and he wouldn't be the last. The blue glow of the screen illuminated my face in the darkness as I quickly searched for all publicly available information about Zhao Shurqing and the Zhao Group. Financial statements, merger records, media reports, any possible clue that might be useful. As dawn was breaking, I finally found a breakthrough. There was something wrong with an investment the Zhao Group made in Southeast Asia last year. The public data didn't match the local media reports, and the CEO of the acquired company had suddenly resigned recently, posting some thought-provoking complaints on social media. I jotted down all the clues and was about to dig deeper when the study door gently swung open. You haven't slept all night? Soo-won stood at the doorway, already dressed in her work attire. Her hair still slightly damp. Clearly she had just taken a shower. I found something. I rubbed my sore eyes. Take a look at this. Soo-won walked over and leaned in to look at my screen. The faint scent of body wash from her drifted into my nose, momentarily distracting me. You suspect the Zhao Group of financial fraud? Soo-won keenly caught on to the key point. Not just that. I opened another file. The core technical team of this acquired company has all resigned, but the Zhao Group is still using their patents for publicity. Soo-won's eyes lit up. So you mean Zhao Shurqing's overseas acquisition is just a shell? I said excitedly. He spent a fortune buying a bunch of worthless patents, while the truly valuable talent has all left. Soo-won nodded thoughtfully. If we can confirm this, the Zhao Group's stock price will plummet. I finished her sentence, and I found out that they have a large debt coming due soon. Soo-won suddenly cupped my face and gave me a firm kiss. Qin Yu, you're a genius. My face flushed. Well, it's nothing, but Soo-won's expression turned serious again. We need solid evidence, not just speculation. I have a way. I smiled mysteriously. Remember when I mentioned helping a friend with business analysis? It's actually a small team that specializes in investigating corporate backgrounds. They can help us dig deeper. Suwon raised an eyebrow. You have access to that kind of resource. A buddy from college, now a private investigator. I pulled out my phone. Should I contact them? Suwon nodded. Contact them immediately. In the meantime, we need to stabilize the company. She picked up her phone, saw Zhao Shurqing's message, and her expression darkened. It's him, as expected. You guessed it long ago. Suwon let out a cold laugh. This kind of despicable tactic is very much in line with his style. I hesitated for a moment. Suwon, if things really take a turn for the worse, you could what? Suwon shot a sharp glance at me. Leave you? I lowered my head. I don't want to see you lose the company you built from scratch. Chin you. Suwon lifted my chin, forcing me to meet her eyes. Listen carefully. Even if the Su Group really goes bankrupt, I will never bow to Zhao Shurqing. A company can be rebuilt. But you, there's only one of you. My heart felt as if something had struck it hard, aching and swelling. When did this once ice-cold woman learn to say such sweet words? And Suwon released me, a cold smile curling at the corner of her mouth. We haven't lost yet. The next 2 weeks were a whirlwind of activity. My detective friend indeed uncovered the fatal dirt on the Zhao Group. Not only were there issues with the Southeast Asian acquisition, but several of their domestic projects also had serious violations. Meanwhile, Suwon stabilized the company internally, restructured the team, and recruited several top industry talents to fill the gaps left by Lin Zion. I was responsible for analyzing market data and helping her formulate a counterattack strategy. We worked together seamlessly, like partners who had been collaborating for years. Sometimes, just a glance is enough for Suwon to understand my thoughts. And, in turn, have become increasingly adept at reading her micro-expressions and subtle gestures. That evening, we finally organized all the evidence, ready to expose the Zhao Group's issues to the media the next day. Suwon put down the last page of the document and let out a long sigh of relief. Finally done. She stretched, her shirt riding up with the movement, revealing a sliver of her fair waist. My gaze was involuntarily drawn to her, and my throat suddenly tightened. Over the past 2 months, even though we had confirmed our relationship, the company crisis and work pressure had kept us from taking things further. Suwon noticed my gaze and raised an eyebrow. What are you looking at? Nothing. I quickly looked away, pretending to organize the documents. It's just, I think you're very beautiful. The room suddenly fell silent, leaving only the sound of pages turning. I could feel Suwon looking at me, but I didn't dare to lift my head. Chin you. She suddenly spoke, her voice softer than usual. We won. I looked up and met her bright eyes. The final outcome won't be clear until tomorrow. No, we've already won. Suwon stood up, walked around the table, and came over to me. Zhao Shurqing can no longer threaten us. She stood in front of me, so close that I could smell the faint scent of her perfume. My heart suddenly raced, and my palms began to sweat. Suwon, my voice tightened. Do you know what you're doing? I do. She leaned down, placing her hands on the armrests of my chair, trapping me between her and the seat. I'm seducing my husband. My brain short-circuited instantly. Suwon had never used a word like seducing before, let alone taken the initiative to do something like this. Are you sure? I swallowed hard. There's a press conference tomorrow, so tonight, we need to relax even more. Suwon's fingers gently traced my collar. Unless you don't want to. Grabbed her wrist, stood up abruptly, and pinned her against the desk. You're playing with fire. President Su. Suwon's breathing quickened noticeably, but her gaze remained defiant. So what? I leaned down and kissed her. This kiss was more passionate than ever before. Suwon responded immediately, her fingers threading through my hair as she pulled me closer. The documents on the desk were swept to the floor. But who cared? At this moment, my world consisted only of Suwon, her scent, her warmth, her rapid breaths against my ear. Wait. Suwon suddenly pushed me away. Her cheeks flushed. Should we go to the bedroom? I lifted her into my arms and strode toward the master bedroom. Su Wan was astonishingly light in my embrace, yet she filled me with an unprecedented sense of fulfillment. I kicked the master bedroom door shut with my foot, pouring all the restraint and waiting of the past 2 years into this night. When Su Wan trembled beneath me and reached her peak, I felt as if I had conquered the entire world. Afterward, I held Su Wan in my arms, my fingers unconsciously tracing circles on her smooth back. Su Wan leaned against my chest, her breathing gradually steadying. "Does it hurt?" I asked softly. "A little," she admitted honestly, but with a satisfied smile on her lips. "But it's good." I kissed the top of her head. "I thought you'd be more experienced." Su Wan pinched me. "What kind of person did you take me for?" "It's not," I quickly explained. "It's just that you're so outstanding. With so many suitors, work keeps me too busy," Su Wan said softly. "And besides, I haven't met someone I truly want to be with." "Until you met me?" I asked shamelessly. Su Wan looked up and glared at me. "Don't get too cocky. It's just that I had no choice but to put up with your pestering." I laughed, rolling over to pin her beneath me. "Then let me bother you one more time." Su Wan's protests were silenced by my kiss. That night, we explored each other's bodies like two explorers discovering a new continent, tirelessly taking and giving. The next morning, when the alarm clock rang, I barely managed to open my tired, gritty eyes. Su Wan was already awake, leaning against the headboard reading documents, wearing my shirt with her hair casually tied up. "Morning," she said without looking up. "The press conference starts at 10. You have an hour to prepare." I propped myself up and kissed her bare shoulder. "Did you sleep well last night?" Su Wan finally put down the documents and turned to look at me. You know the answer to that. Her lips were slightly swollen, and there were marks I had left on her neck. Looking at these spoils of war, I smirked triumphantly. "Stop grinning like an idiot." Su Wan gave me a shove. "Get up. Today is important." "Yes, ma'am, Boss Su." I saluted, jumped out of bed, and dashed into the bathroom. The press conference venue was packed. Su Wan, dressed in a sharp white suit, stood on stage speaking eloquently, confidently and elegantly revealing the evidence of the Zhao Group's violations. Based on the above facts, Su Wan calmly concluded, "We have submitted a formal report to the China Securities Regulatory Commission and will take legal measures to protect our rights and interests." The journalists frantically took photos, flashes flickering in a dazzling array. I stood in a corner off stage, watching Su Wan radiant on stage, my chest swelling with pride. Just then, my phone vibrated. It was a message from my detective friend. "Bombshell. Zhao Shirqing is suspected of insider trading. The evidence has been sent to your email." I immediately opened my email and quickly scanned the attachments. It was indeed a bombshell. Records of Zhao Shirqing purchasing a large number of put options before shorting the Su Group. I quickly shot a glance at Su Wan, who was on stage. She understood immediately and, after finishing her current response, said, "Sorry, I just received an important update." Then she announced this latest discovery. The scene erupted in an uproar, and some reporters immediately began live coverage. Within less than half an hour, the Zhao Group's stock price plummeted, and Zhao Shirqing urgently suspended trading. After the press conference ended, Su Wan was surrounded by the media. Standing on the periphery, I watched her handle various questions with ease, feeling a surge of pride. "Mr. Qin," a familiar voice came from behind. I turned around and saw Lin Zuan standing there, his suit wrinkled and his face haggard. "Vice President Lin," I said coldly, "what brings you here?" I'm here to apologize," Lin Zuan said, lowering his head. "Zhao Shirqing deceived me. He said he just wanted to make President Su change his mind." "So you betrayed the company?" I sneered. "Now that you see Zhao Shirqing is about to fall, you come back to beg for mercy?" Lin Yuan's face turned even darker. "Mr. Qin, I worked at the Su Group for 10 years. Then you should know better than to betray Su Wan." I interrupted him. But don't worry. She's already prepared to sue you. Lindsay Yuan's face turned ashen. Is there no room for negotiation? None, I said firmly. If you do something wrong, you have to pay the price. Even a child understands that. Lin Zuan wanted to say something more, but Su Wan's voice came from behind. Qin Yu, let's go. She walked over, naturally taking my arm without even glancing at Linda. How did the press conference go? I asked, knowing the answer full well. Very successful. Su Wan smiled slightly. Zhao Shirching must be in a real mess right now. We walked out of the venue side by side, the sunlight warming our skin. Celebrate tonight? I suggested in a low voice. Su Wan raised an eyebrow. How? You'll know when we get home. I winked mysteriously. That evening, we opened a bottle of champagne at home to celebrate the resolution of the crisis in our wedding night. Slightly tipsy, Su Wan leaned against me and suddenly said, Qin Yu, thank you. What are you thanking me for? Thank you for not leaving. She whispered, thank you for choosing to stay and fight alongside me. My heart warmed, and I lowered my head to kiss her. Silly, I'm not going anywhere. Moonlight streamed through the curtains onto the bed, casting shadows of our intertwined figures. That night, we were no longer contract spouses, no longer business partners, just two ordinary people in love, enjoying the most primal intimacy and warmth.